I hope I never have to see you again. My mother didn't whisper it. She announced it across the candlelit table at La Scala, loud enough for the waiter to freeze with a Chianti mid-pour. Every fork stopped moving. My aunt's mouth hung open like a broken gate. The string quartet in the corner missed a beat. And there I stood, 30 years old, holding a doctorate from MIT, the ink still wet on the patent that just sold for 8 figures, and I felt the entire restaurant waiting for me to shatter. But I didn't shatter. Something colder and clearer rose inside me instead. I grew up in a brick colonial on a maple-lined street in Syracuse, the sort of neighborhood where people brag about safety and good schools. Everyone else's childhood looked safe from the outside. Mine looked like a museum dedicated to my little brother, Ethan, the prodigy, the miracle, the son the rest of us were expected to orbit without complaint. If Ethan got a B+, my mother cried like someone died and then framed the report card anyway. If Ethan scored the winning goal, my father replayed the grainy phone video at every holiday for the next decade. Meanwhile, I mowed lawns at 13, shoveled driveways in blizzards, and taught myself calculus from library books because no one at home noticed I was drowning in honors classes. When I won the state science fair at 16 with a project on renewable battery storage, Mom glanced at the trophy, smiled thinly, and said, "That's lovely, honey. Did I tell you Ethan got accepted to the traveling orchestra?" As though my blue ribbon was a participation sticker and his violin was curing cancer, that I paid my own way through undergrad, working night security at the university gym, sleeping 4 hours a night, eating cafeteria leftovers I fished out of the trash when my meal plan ran out. My parents never asked how the tuition got paid. They only called when the internet bill was late and they needed my credit card over the phone. Some nights, wiping down weight benches at 3 a.m., I practiced smiling in the mirror so that when someone finally looked at me, I'd know how to look grateful. MIT was supposed to change the equation. When the acceptance came, my advisor hugged me so hard my ribs creaked. My mother read the letter, nodded once, and said, "Ethan's starting med school interviews. Pray he gets into Johns Hopkins." I told myself distance would help. Boston was far enough that maybe, just maybe, achievement at that altitude would finally register on their radar. So when the acquisition closed, when the company that bought my patent threw a private dinner in my honor at La Scala, the kind of place with truffle foam and $400 bottles of Barolo, I invited them. I paid for everything. I wanted one night, just one, where the spotlight didn't have to be stolen. It was already mine. I wanted them to see the daughter they'd overlooked had built something that lit up the dark. My team arrived first, laughing, clapping me on the back, people who'd watched me code until my fingers bled. My CEO raised a glass and said, "To the woman who just made us all very rich and the world a little cleaner." I was floating. Then my parents walked in. Mom wore the same tight smile she used for school plays she didn't want to attend. Dad checked his watch twice before sitting. No card.
No flowers.
Not even the courtesy of pretending. Conversation limped along until my mother leaned forward, wineglass in hand, and delivered the line that turned the room to ice. "I hope I never have to see you again." She said it like she was commenting on the weather, like she'd been carrying it for 30 years and finally found the perfect moment to set it down. The waiter fled. My CEO's face went white, and I felt every pair of eyes swing toward me again, waiting for the predictable collapse of the forgotten child. I set my napkin on the table, slow and deliberate. "Funny," I said, voice steady, loud enough for the whole room to hear. I was just about to say the same thing. I stood. "Tonight was supposed to be a celebration. I invited you because, against every piece of evidence, I still hoped you might choose to be proud. But you just made this very easy." I looked at my mother, really looked at her for the first time in years. "Thank you," I said, "for 30 years of teaching me exactly what I never want to become. And thank you for freeing me from the last thread of obligation I felt toward you." I turned to the room. "I'm sorry for the scene. Please everyone eat, drink, enjoy. The night is still mine." Then I walked out, heels clicking like closing arguments, and I didn't look back. Outside, the Boston night smelled like salt and possibility. My phone buzzed. My team blowing up the group chat with heart emojis and champagne glasses. My CEO texting, "That was the most badass thing I've ever seen." For the first time in my life, the silence that followed me wasn't empty. It was mine.
And it was enough.